Good evening, everybody. I'm Catherine Hilliard, and I'm honored to be your president for Mwpac this year. And I'm so happy that you're all here to join us in Run to Win. This is a seminar for those people who are running for office, who are thinking about running for office, or who are supporting people who are running for office. And I'm so glad to see all of you here because of all of the news and pandemics, and please do what you need to do if you need to mask or not mask. So anyway, I know you're still eating, but I would like to start the program so we can get out of here at a time. I know you all have commitments because today is only Thursday. So what I would like to do, because the stars of our show are all of you, I would like to ask each one of you to stand, say your name and what office you're running for, or who you're helping, or why you're here. And so that means and then you can go back to eating. Okay, so I would like to start. Okay, right here at this table, we'll go around, we'll go that way, and that way, okay? All right.
My name is Ashley Ravichet, and I am a director at the Southern Marin Fire District. I'll be back on the November ballot. And I don't need a microphone.
My name is David Gabriel. I'm not running for anything. I'm here for academic to see how people are running post-pandemic. Number one, social media. Number two, I'm a Rotarian. I'm on the board of directors of Marin Coalition, Conversations That Matter. We need you to come to our Zoom meetings, okay? So that's my objective here. And I'm here to enjoy myself. So good luck to all of you. And if I can forward any of you that I live in Nevada, but I like to work with candidates who have a large worldview. Even though I'm a, quote, Democrat, I'm happy to work with independents, Republicans, and people who can get things done.
Good afternoon, Christine Soto-DeBerry. I am a current member of the Southern Marin Fire District. I ran in 2020 for a partial term. I was appointed the year before that, so I seem to be perpetually running for my seat. I'm again on this November's ballot.
Thank you for your service. Christine was our keynote speaker at the Elected Women's Luncheon. Okay, Lisa.
So anything that I learned here will be useful to someone, if not myself.
Thanks so much. Julia.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Reinhardt, and I'm here tonight to talk about campaign social media, and I was Mary Sackett's campaign manager. Nice to meet you all.
Here, I'll
Sides.
Good evening, everyone. Doug Sides. I'm the president of Marin County Young Democrats, and during the June primary, I was the field director for Gina Daly. And chances are I'll probably be helping Rachel on her campaign, knocking on doors. Not currently planning on running for office, but definitely considered sometime, in the next couple of years. So I thought this would be a great educational opportunity, and also be great just to meet everyone here.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Farah. I'm going to be running for City Council for Novato in District 2. The incumbent is not going for re-election, so I'm excited to learn, and thank you so much for hosting us.
Hi, I'm Susan Farah, Rachel's mom, and I'll be helping her with her campaign.
Good, nice.
I'm Tamara Hall, and I'm being asked to run for City Council of Larkspur. I was thinking about it.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm from San Rafael, and I'll be supporting my husband, who will be running for the NCOE Board of Education.
Oh.
And his name is?
Roderick Castro.
Okay, thanks.
My name is Abby Pickus. I'm currently a high school teacher at TAM, but I live in Novato and will be running for school board in Area 4 in Novato.
Thank you for
having us.
Hi, I'm Erin Lacey. I'm a city commissioner in Novato. I'm not planning to run for elected office, but I'm involved in candidate identification and campaign support. Looking forward to learning more tonight.
I'm Dottie Lemieux, and I'm one of the presenters tonight.
I'm Gina Brewer. I'm also one of the presenters tonight. I'm with MWPAC for a long time and enjoyed
One of our
being on
past
the
presidents.
periphery.
A past president.
Hi everybody, I'm Pat Rolazzio. I am running for Corte Madera Town Council. My husband has been on the council for 15 years and he's decided he's had enough. And I suddenly realized I wasn't going to be able to get anything done unless I did it myself. So I'm throwing my hat in the ring. Hi, Zane.
Oh, did not know that.
I hear all the first to know. Actually, I haven't, taken out papers. I haven't actually filed. So I'm still in the exploratory stage, but I'm getting some encouragement. So
Wonderful.
thanks.
We just saw your husband at the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority meeting. Yes. Damon, we were going around everyone, so you were missed. You want to stand up and say who you are as a
Hey everyone, I'm Damon Connolly, Marin County Supervisor, representing Santa Fe, running for State Assembly.
Thank you. Okay. So, Ken.
Ken Martin, a member of the Marin Women's Pac Club, and a presenter tonight to talk about the fun process of going through endorsements.
Heather Martin. I am running for nothing, but I'm hanging out with my husband, so I'm here.
Thank you for coming.
I too am not running for anything. My name is Lainey Zan. I've run for about 40 years. And what's interesting to me, I was a professional fundraiser in the religious community forever. I'm now retired. It'd be really interesting to see the fun in fundraising politically.
Hi, I'm Mary Sackett, recently elected to District 1 on the Board of Supervisors. And just take a second to thank you all very much to the Women's PAC for supporting me. Your endorsement made a big difference and I really appreciate it. And I've brought my daughter, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. That's great. Okay, I want to, before we start the first presenter, to let you know that this is an actual seminar and that at the end of it you will get a certificate of completion. So please step back when you leave. At the table back there, they're in alphabetical order. For those of you who came without making a reservation, I will get it to you. If you will just let us know. We can either fill in a blank one, but I think I'd rather do it properly and have your name, and then I'll mail it to you. So thank you so much. And now I think this is really important, and I'm so excited that we can provide this kind of seminar so right now we'll start with our very first presenter, the one who's been doing this and organizing this for quite a long time, who has a lot of expertise. And we're going to campaign basics, start to finish. Dottie Lemieux of Green Dog Campaigns.
So I'm Dottie Lemieux. I am the former membership chair of this organization, so I would like to urge everybody here to consider joining the organization. It is a wonderful, fun organization, and we do endorse women and pro-choice men who are running for office. So really important at this time to get people like that elected, so please consider becoming one of us. Okay, with that, I'm going to start. I have a company called Green Dog Campaigns. I've been in business about 20 years. I've worked a lot in Marin and also all over the Bay Area for different campaigns of different sorts. So we're going to do what we can in a few minutes. Okay, there, this isn't one. Okay, so the first most important person in your campaign is the voter. It's not you, it's not your campaign consultant, it's not your fundraiser, it's the voter. And when the people ask you, why are you running for this office? What they're really asking is, what can you do for me? Because they want to know how your campaign is going to make a difference in their life if you're elected to whatever office it is you're running for. So always keep the voter in mind. Now, the next most important person is the candidate. That's you. So you are the one that has to go out there and do the heavy lifting. You're going to have people working with you to help you, volunteers and in many cases paid consultants and fundraisers. But you have to do these two important things, and that is meet voters and talk to them about the issues and let them know why you're running, what you're going to do for them, and why they should vote for you, and then raise money so that you can take that message of what your issues are, why you're the person they should vote for, and how you're going to make a difference in their life. And you have to be able to get your message to the voter. And you do that in a number of different ways. You have to be able to touch them at least 7 times through the mail, at the door, possibly on TV, social media, a lot of different ways. In events, you're going to need to touch that voter to let them know. And in order to do that, you're going to have to raise money. Just the postage alone can be very expensive if you're in a countywide district or even a large special district, a supervisorial district. It can get very costly. It can be over $100,000. Some districts that are small, it'll be like $20,000 or less. Fairfax, usually less. So you'll be working with your consultant and your team. Your team should be like your kitchen cabinet, a group of advisors who know about the issues, who can help you hone your message, as well as the volunteers that are actually going to knock on doors. You're going to provide input, issues, and background to all these people who are going to help you so that when they talk about you, they know what they're saying. You're going to raise money. Some people can self-fund, but most people can't. And you're going to make phone calls to raise money. And after I talk, Lori Earp over here, just came in the back, is the fundraiser. And she is going to talk all about that important issue, because that is one of those 2 important issues. So you're the best ambassador. Every time you go out anywhere, you're going to be talking to people about why you're running. You'll have a brochure like the one we have up in the front. You have something to carry around, hand to people. Let them know why you're running, that you are running, first of all. You're going to go to events. You're going to go to your events that you hold, whether they're meet and greets or fundraisers. You're going to go to other people's events. Other people who are running for office, not your opponent, but people who are running for other offices where there might be people who are also interested in you. And then various community events like this, where you'll want to do some schmoozing around. I want to see everybody that's running, walking around the tables, not when I'm talking, but meeting people and get them to help you. And you'll be supplying the contacts for fundraising and for volunteers and for endorsements, because you're going to want to get those important endorsements that Ken and Gina will be talking to you about. Now, whoops. Okay, the campaign components are basically this. Your strategy and tactics. Your strategy is your overall, what is this campaign about? How am I going to win it? How many people am I going to meet? How many votes do I need? How much is it going to cost? Your tactics are the way that you get that. You meet the people, you get the votes, you mail, all those things we talked about. Those are your tactics. How are you going to get to those people? You need a campaign plan that you put together or your consultant puts together how you're going to do this. You need to know what the timeline is. You only have so much time. On election day, that's the end. You're done. And these days, people are voting early. So you're really done a month before election day, or close to done. A lot of people have voted already. And you're going to need a budget. How much is it going to cost, so that you know how much money to raise and where you're going to find that money. So you have an idea. You're not just surprised at the end of, oh my God, I need another $20,000. Where is it? You're going to do some branding and messaging. Your branding is like you often have a logo, picture of yourself, a nice picture, something that maybe a tagline. I'm running for hospital board because I care about healthcare. I mean, that's pretty boring, but something that's you. You're going to do fundraising. You'll probably have a consultant in most campaigns these days, unless just really small. Some kind of staff, which might be volunteer. Somebody who's going to call the volunteers who are volunteered to walk precincts for you. We're going to walk precincts on Sunday morning, and we're all going to meet in front of the community center. I want you to show up. Somebody's going to do that and not you. You shouldn't do all those little nitpicky things, but you have to have somebody that does it. A field campaign, which is you're getting out meeting voters and also calling them on the telephone. How are you going to do that? You have to get the right list of voters to meet, not just anybody, but who are the actual voters, not just the people that are registered to vote. Some of them never vote. So you want to have a good list of who the voters actually are. And your kitchen cabinet that I mentioned earlier, people that will give you some good advice about the issues that are important to your particular campaign. Okay, if you have a campaign consultant, is the person that does all the overall stuff, strategy and often the mail and the bigger things, and keeps an eye on what everybody's doing in the campaign. Your campaign manager, this again can be a volunteer. It can be the same as the volunteer organizer, but it's somebody who will help you day to day, who will hold your hand basically, keep your calendar. Make sure that you have house parties to go to. Make sure that somebody's in charge of the field campaign. They work with you and they also inform you. They tell you what they've heard. They've heard that there's an event over here, there's a picnic in the park you should go to. They keep an eye on everything for you. And they also work closely with the consultant so that the consultant knows what's coming up, what issues need to be looked at. They can implement your PR plan. When reporters call, they're going to want to have somebody to talk to. If it can't be you, it should be somebody like the campaign manager who knows everything about your campaign. But when reporters call, you want to be available to them, maybe not that minute. You might want to say, I'll call you back because you want to think about it. But it helps to have that campaign manager as kind of a buffer. Somebody's got to keep your database. That can be the campaign manager or it can be somebody dedicated to that. Your database, by that I mean who are your volunteers, your donors, your supporters, the people you need to meet, the people that you're going to send e-blasts to, like on a Constant Contact or a MailChimp account that you keep. Somebody has to watch that database and make sure it's up to date and you have everybody's email, that you have the right information about them, and that you keep adding to it. It should always grow. And then your internal communications, the e-blast for your supporters, and anything that you have to get out to the volunteers and to the people that are working on your campaign quickly. Somebody like a campaign manager can help you do that. A treasurer. This is another huge important task. We were going to have somebody here who was going to talk about compliance, which means how you keep legal with all this money that you're taking in and the reporting that you have to do. And this is what your treasurer should be able to do. So you want to get a good campaign treasurer. There are people who do this professionally, and they cost money, but it's worth it if you have a larger campaign. For a smaller campaign, you might want to just have somebody who's done other campaigns, been a treasurer for other campaigns. They should be good with finances and be able to keep a good spreadsheet. They have to know when all the filing deadlines are. And you get from the county, when you first sign up to run, or the city, whatever you're running for, you should get a campaign guidelines that tells you when all the dates are for filing and all the things that you need to know. There are certain If you have to print your name and the name of your campaign committee and all that stuff on things that you send out by mail or anywhere, even your website. You have to have all that information, who it's paid for by. Your treasurer should know all that. They should know what the rules are, if there's contribution limits in your community, and make sure that people aren't going over them. And you also have to keep good records. You have to keep, for any campaign, you have to keep the person's, all their contact information and their employer and their occupation. You have to have that. And usually it's over $100 that you need it to report, but you should keep it no matter what, because if they give you 25 one month and 25 another month and it adds up and suddenly they're over the limit and you haven't been reporting it, someone has to know that so you can suddenly do it. And they would be the head of your finance committee if you have one, which you should. And those are people who can help you find larger donors who maybe will have a party where they invite only people that can afford to give you $5,000 because they could give you $5,000. So your treasurer can help you get that committee together. This is not my field of expertise, but this is something I know that you need to know about. That sounds like my phone. So your fundraiser does all this stuff that we talked about. And I think Lori's going to talk about a lot of this, the call time and stuff. That's really important. You have to make phone calls to people. You have to have a good list. Lori will talk about that. Right, Lori? Okay, good. I'm going to move on. Your messaging. This is really important. If you have to have something to say, you have to know why you're running, not just because your friend said, oh, I think you should run, you'd be great. That's not a good reason. Not just because you feel like, oh, I should be in power. I really have lots of things to say. But you should have some really good issues that you think are important and that you know how to address. So you need to know what the key issues are in your community and how you're going to address them. Prioritize them. You can't do everything that you think of. And when you do mail or you do a handout or some kind of brochure or something, any kind of messaging, you should just have simple, straightforward, bulleted material. Don't write your essay on why the school board has to change in 3 pages. You just want 2 or 3 bullet points. What's wrong with the school board, how you can help it be better, and something about yourself. So that you, like for instance, we have a school teacher here who's running for school board. I don't know you, so I use you as an example. You have an expertise in this field that you're running for, so you can say that in your material, very short. Don't give your whole resume, just a little tiny bit. What you've done and what you'll do. Why you and not the other guy? Someone else is running. You may want to say what's the problem with him or why he isn't good. But you have to do that very tactfully. You don't want to be negative. But you might want to, and this is something that will probably come up more in conversation or debates rather than something you're going to put out in a printed piece, unless there's something really juicy. It's just something to keep in mind. And you want to have somebody that can do good graphics so that you have a well-crafted, good-looking piece of mail or handout or whatever. Use bullet points and be consistent in what you say. Don't say one thing to one group of people and one different thing to somebody else because they want to hear something different. You have to say the same thing. You can say it in a different way because maybe people hear things differently, but you have to be consistent in your message. And it helps to do the why you and not them, just kind of as an exercise when you're starting out. If you know who the competition is, what is it that you see as the issues? What do they see as the issues? Is there a big difference? How do you work? Are you collaborative? And how do they work? What do they do? Your background and experience, why you are right for this job and maybe they don't have any. So this is an internal exercise for you and the campaign team to work on. You have to know who you're talking to, and sometimes you're running for school board, you might want to talk to people that have school-aged children, or that are of the age that would have school-aged children. And you can find that out from the voter list. You're gonna, people that vote by mail, pretty much everybody now, used to be mostly older people and more conservative people, but now it's kind of everybody. You want to know what's the party that's prevalent, mostly Democrats in Marin County? Maybe in geography, there's different issues in different parts of your district that might affect a group of people over here and not over there. So if you go to a house party over here, you're going to want to know what their issues are. And if you go over here, you want to know what their issues are. And anything else that will help you. There's different types of mail. You want to get something to the voter by a month, by the time that the absentee ballots go out and that your ballot arrives in the mail. You want to have something from you that arrives in the mail for those people that are going to vote right away, so that they know something about you. So there are different kinds of mail. You might want to do an introduction of yourself, something with testimonials, a comparison piece, why you and not the other guy, something about issues, and something that's targeted to these different groups that we had on the last slide. But in most campaigns, small campaigns, you're not going to have the luxury of doing a whole bunch of different pieces of mail. You're going to try to get a lot of this into one piece. So those short bullet points, nice graphics, and whatever you think is the most important. Direct mail, these are the things that arrive in the mailbox. With repetition, 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 people got to see it 7 times in one form or another. Social media, mail, at the door. It's got to say the same thing. Your name, what you stand for, very fast. If they pick it up and it just goes in the garbage, and then they've seen your name and they've taken it to the recycling bin. But they get it, don't overwhelm them with 20 pieces of mail, because then they'll just think you're nothing but a waster of paper and cutter down of trees. So you got to have the right balance, but you have to hit them enough times that they get the message. And nowadays you can do a lot of that with social media and with other ways. Texting, people do just a lot of creative ways of getting to people, but the mail is still, I think, the most important, because it's something you have to touch. So, okay, we're almost done. These are just a couple of examples of mail that we've done. We did a vote by mail, early voter, just reminding people, vote for Shirley. This was a supervisor up in Sonoma. Here's your ballot, vote for her. We did this for older voters in that campaign. Wasn't it nice when things were nicer? And remember, and she knows, because her job was the head of a senior center, so we wanted to capitalize on that. So we did a lot of targeted stuff. This is another kind of mail. This was up in Mendocino County, and this guy was endorsed by the Democratic Party. So we wanted to really hit home to Democratic voters. This was only mailed to Democrats, because he wanted to really solidify that base. So it has the party endorsement, and then Mike McGuire and other things that would appeal to Democrats. So here's a lot of the other ways that you can reach people. And of course, signs are on there. You have to have signs. I don't think they're the most important thing. Don't spend all your money on signs, because signs don't convince people of anything, except that you have a lot of signs. But they don't tell you anything. They don't teach you anything. It's a reminder if they already know to vote for you. Robocalls are not particularly useful. They're really annoying, but we used to use them a lot. Sometimes you want to do an ad in the newspaper. People still do that. But certainly web ads, banner ads, and some of the papers online. Obviously you need a website and all that stuff. Social media and signs, so many signs. Yes, you see they clutter up the landscape and they cost a lot of money. And they don't really tell you a whole lot about the person. What we try to do, because everybody has to have signs, is we try to put the name of the candidate, what they're running for, so you can read it from a distance, and maybe their tagline, or if they're endorsed by someone that everybody loves, like the Sierra Club or the firefighters. If you got the firefighters, that's great. That's a huge endorsement. We put that on every sign if we have them. So that's when signs are helpful, when you have some big endorsement or something really differentiating you. And miscellaneous, dealing with the press. I think I mentioned that. You've got to be ready to talk to the press. You have to have your elevator speech ready, so when people ask you why you're running, including the press, you don't go on and on and on and on. You have like 2 minutes, you say what your main points are, and that's it. Letters to the editor. Have people write letters to the editor, because the other side will do it. You want to, and you can have someone that's a designated scribe. That person can write all the letters, and just have people who are willing to sign their name on these letters. And you have to know what the guidelines of the newspaper, like the IJ or any other paper that you're writing to, what they're usually they're like 250 words, and you shouldn't get nasty. But people do anyway. There are debates where you're in forums where you're going to see whoever you're running against, and you have to go head to head with them. In endorsement nights and questionnaires, all these groups that I mentioned, including MWPAC, is going to send you questionnaires and want to know where you stand on their issues, whatever their issues are. So you need to be prepared to do that. And I'm getting close to the end. Okay. This is a re-elect thing. I don't know. Once you're elected, you have to get re-elected. So be prepared to do it over again. And this is Diane Gasson in Nevada. Can't really see that, but okay. That's all I have to say. But I'd be happy to answer questions. I probably took too long. Question.
So going door to door is still considered the top thing, or is
actually it's the top thing. Especially if they see you as the candidate at the door, that's the best way to make that contact and get that vote. But 90%, but a lot of people are not home, whatever time of the day, the weekend you go there. So you have to have something to leave at the door, a door hanger or something. I like to slide it under the doormat. And have a lot of volunteers, because you're not going to be able to knock on every door, no matter how tiny your district is, you're just not. So, yeah, it's a great thing to do. It's very inexpensive. Big bang for the buck.
Thank you so much, Dottie. Thank you very much.
Pass this on. No, I'm going to pass it on to Lori, right?
Right.
Okay.
Lori is going to talk about putting the fund in fundraising. She is the
fundraiser extraordinaire who knows everything about getting your campaign off on the right foot with the money.
All right, I'm going to do it. So everybody will rotate, and I want some of the ice cream.
That looks really good on a day like today.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Barbara. Perfect. I'll put it in there. Okay. I just want to open this up real fast. I have paper, and we'll share this with you. Okay, fine. There we go. Okay, so just because I don't know everybody in the room, how many of you are running for office? And how many of you hold office? Oh, so you're just here for a refresher course. Are others considering running for office? Cool. Okay, and the rest is a support team. All right, well, you are very important in all of this. One of the things I like to talk about regularly is time. And I start with that because time is a precious tool,
and it goes away really fast. If you do not respect time, it's gone. You need to see it as something incredibly sacred. When you are getting ready, and those of you who hold office, who are considering running for office will attest to this, you are getting pulled, and as Dottie mentioned as well, there's so many things you have to do. Questionnaires, questionnaires, questionnaires. You're gonna need to go sit in on meetings, do handshaking, all of that, as long as it's COVID safe. And right, we have a new world that we're dealing in, but as we know, it's modified, right? People still wanna connect. You need to put on your calendar time to make calls, time to do your fundraising. Because as Dottie spoke about in terms of budgets and all kinds of things, you're gonna need to start spending money. And if you have all kinds of reasons that you weren't able to get on the phone or implement your fundraising plan, it's not gonna happen. It happens because of you. So a few things that I've observed is that time keeps moving forward. C.S. Lewis said the future is something which everyone reaches at the rate of 60 minutes an hour, whatever that person does, whoever that person is. So imagine that, 60 minutes an hour. How many of you have done phone timing already? Phone time? Okay. And how many calls are you able to get through in an hour, that 60 minutes? Guilty.
Probably like 20 to 40, because I used to do sales. So I like the phone. And I set expectations. I go, hey, we can talk later. Can you give me money? And then I send them a text, and they go.
So that's about 3 minutes or less a call, right? Did I add that up right? Maybe not. My math is bad. I'm not the treasurer. I'm the fundraiser. So,
and I just already have the numbers in, so just
calling and making it happen. Perfect.
I felt texting's been more efficient than calling.
And you're seeing the outcome of it, that people are sending in the money.
I would say I have like a 75% rate right now.
This is good. That we need to go to that school.
This is in outside sales, so I've been knocking on doors for like the last 15 years.
And you get it. I mean, it's really important. It's that balance of how you respect that time, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, and there's 24 hours in a day, and you have to do so many other things. Those of you who are, and I'm going to get back to that in a second, but how many of you running for office or holding office or considering running for office have full-time jobs? You have a full-time job, so that I think is like 8 hours a day, right? We have the 8-hour work week a day, right? Not really. I know, nobody does, but that's a thought. So you have that. How many of you are taking care of children or senior parents? Right? How many of you think about yourself and maybe eat, sleep, exercise a little bit, right? You have to, it's a lot. It's a lot. I understand that. And as a fundraiser who's working with candidates, you need to honor the time that you put on your calendar to make calls, to do the fundraising. Right? And that's going to come later, but I really want to emphasize that because I know for myself how the days go by. Today is a perfect example. I called my staff to check in and see what they were doing and, you know, if they could work on this next project. And they said, oh, well, we were planning on leaving at 5 o'clock today. And I thought, well, that's fine. That's in 2 hours. And it was, you know, 13 minutes to 5. The day goes fast. Right? We're all busy, we're up and working. So block out whatever time you're devoting to this in order to get it done. If you're getting a 75% close rate, that's huge. That's really, really huge, and you're calling a really good hot list. So very exciting. What's the contribution limit on your race?
It just got raised on Monday to $750, but before it was $400, so I got 2 $400 donors. And then my average rate, I think, is $100 around.
Very nice. When you start getting into the $4,900 contribution limits or higher, that it becomes a little more challenging. But you keep going, and I'm not taking away your successes at all, because I'm so excited by your energy and what you're doing. Okay. So, time. How does that relate to everything? I've honed that in. You have a campaign timeline. By the time you decide to run for office, you're already too late. Okay? You just have to accept that as a fact. But the one thing you're not going to do is turn the hands of time back. So you need to look forward and put together that campaign timeline. What Dottie spoke about with these all mail-in elections, that means that money is being spent even sooner, right? So it's not a matter of waiting through October. Money starts being spent in September because the ballots arrive at the beginning of October, about. So you're wanting to have your mail or your advertisements already going in order to communicate with the voters. The Registrar of Voters does very little on behalf of your campaign, right? They're gonna let people know if you get your ballot statement in that you're running and who you are, and that's important. I have people anecdotally that will not vote for anyone that has failed to put a ballot statement into a voter's pamphlet. Make sure you get it in there. So you need to know what your timeline is, how many weeks, how many months you have to raise the money you're gonna raise, and you're gonna put together a development plan. And this development plan, which I will share, and I can share them electronically as well so that everybody can get them, you're going to have a month-by-month projection of how much money you're going to be bringing in, where the money is coming from. You put together this plan with fundraising events. Anybody who works with me knows that I resist having campaigns that are event-driven. You need to have house parties, and that's for another part of the campaign to speak about. But for fundraising events, it requires the same amount of time and energy to send out an invitation, to get people there, a host committee. Do you have food? Do you not have food? How do you communicate with people? For a large event as it does for a small event. So what I've been doing is I try to have strategically located events. So depending on the geography of your office that you're running for, you can hold them in specific areas, right? There's traffic on 101 and getting back and forth, east to west, over here. So you need to be smart about that. And people are still doing hybrid events. They're still doing Zoom events. I think they're as successful. I had a lot of campaigns during the pandemic, and we had a lot of successful Zoom events. So I don't want to dismiss that, but I just want to say, even a Zoom event to get people there, especially because of Zoom fatigue, right, screen fatigue, and people wanting to see that you have backs and legs and shoes and things like that, they want live events, but do not have an event-driven campaign. Have an event-smart campaign. Have an event, especially as Democrats working to get the labor union support, right? They have a whole process that they have to go through where you have to put in a request that will go to their e-board, and then the e-board votes, and then it has to go to the delegates if they've endorsed you, if they're going to make the contribution. That can be a month to 2 months of meetings. So if you decide to have an early event, and they say, well, when's your event? Oh, it already happened. Sorry, right? So be smart. Schedule it closer to the end and raise money all the way up to it. Build your host committee. Build a finance committee. Your host committee are people who are going to raise money. Everybody needs to raise money. Going back to that issue of time that I've mentioned, if you have 10 people on a finance committee, if you have 10 people on a host committee, and they've all committed to raise $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, what's just happened? You've just multiplied the amount of money you're going to bring in by tenfold. That's what you need to do. And how smart of that is that for you? Not everybody is going to be able to get through 20 to 40 calls and have a 75% rate of success, right? You're not going to be able to do that. And especially when you need to start raising higher dollars. So get your proxies. Everyone does this. Presidential campaigns have their finance committees. People around the country that are raising millions of dollars so that they can have their billions of dollars to communicate. Fortunately, you don't need to do that, but you do need to raise your budget. So, fundraising events are important. Schedule them as early in your campaign as possible for as late as possible, so that you are building, so that it is one of your tools that you will get to use. Somebody, I'll call you up and I'll say, hi, I count on you for a contribution. I'd like to go to an event. Do you have an event? As a matter of fact, I've got one happening in late August. Terrific, sign me up, right? So you use it as a tool. There are individuals that want to be seen. Let them be seen. Don't miss out on that opportunity. So 1 or 2 events is what I would recommend. When you're running over here for state assembly and it's Marin, Sonoma, you maybe have Southern Marin, West Marin, Central Marin. Can you do Southern Sonoma with, North Marin, something like that? So I'm talking about 4 or 5 ideal events. Okay, that would be great. And they should be what I call all-in events, so that you've got, I work a lot in other counties with labor, and they had tried to have their own events, and they thought, it's not working. Our people are writing checks, but they're not coming, and they want to see all the other people and let the other folks know that labor is present. So bring them into that, and we stopped a labor event. But if you're a realtor, and you have support from Wpac, the California Realtors Political Action Committee, they may do an event for you. I had a woman running for office in Alameda County who's an optometrist. We went throughout, she was running for state assembly. We went throughout the state and met with optometrists and raised over $600,000 for her with the optometrists, because the optometrists had an interest in seeing her win. Don't forget who you are and where you came from. All right, those are really important things. So in terms of the events, you'll have them geographic. You're going to wait as long as you can, and you'll have what I call an affinity group, right? People want to meet together in that regard. So these affinity groups, who are they in order to fill out your development plan? You have lives before you decided to run for office, right? You have family, you have friends, you went to school, you maybe go to a house of worship, maybe you exercise, right? Maybe you're on a sports team, all kinds of possibilities. Maybe you have a special car and belong to a Corvette club. I don't know what it all is. All of those people are prospective donors. The only reason they won't donate is what? Thank you. That's exactly right. You just have to ask. There's a great story that I'm never tired of telling about Speaker Tip O'Neill many decades ago. So he had lived next to a woman, his neighbor, for eons, and it was a day after election. They both came out on their lawns about the same time. He came out to pick up his newspaper. They said, hello, good morning, how are you? Fine, congratulations on your victory, thank you so much. Did you vote for me? No. You didn't vote for me? You didn't ask, right? So don't forget to ask. The worst thing that'll happen is that they're going to say no and say, that's okay, may I come back later? Right? Every no is an opportunity for you to come back with another response. And one of the things I don't have that they didn't print for me is a suggested script. But again, I'll email that to you. So think about your affinity groups. And when you do that, you're going to put an amount next to each one of them. So let's say you have a $400 contribution limit and you have 10 family members that you believe will max out. So you're going to put $4,000. You have really good friends that you've known since kindergarten, right? And there's a group of 20 of you, and you go camping every year. That's 20 of them. Are they going to have the capacity to give you $400 each? Maybe not. Maybe it's an average of 200. So you do the 200 times the 20, and that's another 4,000. You put all those numbers in here, and again, think broadly, but smart. You may not use any of the rosters that you have, either electronically or in print, wholesale. It's, right, it's verboten. You may not do that. But you wouldn't want to do that anyway, right? Those people don't necessarily know you. I have a client right now who shall remain nameless and is driving me nuts. All right, I'll just be honest. She keeps telling me, I want you to go get all the 460s. Does everybody know what a 460 is? A 460 is a contribution report that gets filed by the treasurer with the state. When you get your Fair Political Practices Commission, your Fppc number, and you have to file it there, or you'll file it at the county. Thank you very much. So that's and it shows all your contributions. Those are public information. So if you want to find like-minded candidates or office holders and you want to do some mining to see who contributes on a repeated basis, you can do that research to go find the 460s. If you go to calaccess.org, cal-access.org, that's the Secretary of State's website with all the financial information that's been filed there. But the county registrar also has that, and so you just have to find it. You can't use that, and you don't want to use that. Some of those people in there are uncles, aunts, cousins, mothers, right? They're not going to contribute. So when this client that's driving me nuts is saying, go get the 460s and I want to send letters to all those people, I need to be smart with my time and with our resources. I'm not going to use our precious letterhead and envelopes and remittance envelopes to send out letters to everybody because they donated to other people that held that office. I will, however, look to see who has contributed that makes sense. Oh, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 contributors that we're going to solicit because these office holders are of like minds, right? They're environmentalists or they're transportation mavens, whatever it is, they're educators. I want to see who contributes, who the institutional donors were that contributed to them. Because when I make my case for giving that Dottie's speaking about, and I have my messaging clear, I'm able to say to them, I'm an educator. I've got the support of CTA, California Teachers Association. I have the support of CFT, the California Federation of Teachers, right? I need your support. That's how you can do it. That's the messaging that happens. So with your affinity groups, I want you to think broadly. You don't have them on your list. You can't ask them. You don't ask, you don't get, right? And it's okay if you get a quick no. And if somebody says it's not a good time for me right now, I'm taking care of my mother, I have this issue, that issue, I've just remodeled my bathroom, I hear that. I say, oh my gosh, you had money to remodel the bathroom and you can't give me $100? Sorry, no value judgment, but yes. And you need to say, when would be a good time? I understand it's not good now. Or if I want somebody to give me $1,000 and I've got a 10-month lead time and they say I can't do 1,000, that's a lot, it's really heavy lifting for me right now, no problem. Could you give me $100 a month, right? $100 a month. Always have a response, be prepared. That's a kind of conversation that you have with yourself before you get on the phone. You're not gonna negotiate with the potential donor. You're gonna allow them to negotiate with themselves. Dottie, I'd love you to give me $1,000 right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just remodeled my bathroom.
And how much were those doors? No, so now's not good. I understand, but may I call you back in a week, a month?
Oh, sure, of course.
And we can have that kind of conversation, right? So you keep that going. enjoy the new bathroom, right? So those are the kinds of things that you need to be prepared to do. Does everyone feel comfortable making phone calls and asking people for money? No, I should back up a second. Not everybody has done outside sales. So I was listening, and you've now given me the opportunity to weave this in. So I've not been able to listen to any of the hearings about January 6th. And on my way over, I was listening to tonight's hearing. And the truth is, I want to cry. And I wanted to cry on the way over because I think about democracy in a real serious way, as all of you do, and that's why you're here. And to really hear those recordings again of what was going on, the reality is incredibly frightening. And I don't have to say that, which you know about how fragile democracy is fought for, right? Or how hard it's fought for and how fragile it's kept. So fundraising for campaigns is about the small d in what we do. This is democracy. It's about giving people the opportunity to support you. You have a reason that you're running, and people want to participate. They don't want to all participate by breaking into our Capitol and destroying it. They want to do it in ways that are meaningful to make positive change. And that's why I really admire all of you for deciding to do this. And when you have that confidence in yourself about why you have decided to run for office, it makes it really easy to say, I am so proud to be taking the time right now to run for office. I believe in myself and the changes I will be able to bring to this office. People want to have an opportunity to participate in democracy. And that's what this is. And so I want to empower you to look in the mirror and say, I can do it. I know why I'm running, and I'm giving people opportunities to give what they can. And if they can only give $25 right now, that's okay, because they can give $25 next month, and the following month, and the following month. And all of a sudden that $25 is $100, and the $100 is $400, and so on. And you need to keep working that. Again, your affinity groups, your events, your finance committee. It's different than your kitchen cabinet. And I want to, if people tell you that they'd like to host an event for you, you need to know if it's a get out the vote, a voter touch event, or if it's a fundraising event. And I want all of you, no matter what your limit is, in terms of your contribution limits, to have a minimum goal for any fundraising event. So for my assembly races, I say it has to be 5,000. For my countywide races, it's 10,000, right? That I have a minimum for a fundraising event. And if they say, I can't do that, not a problem. I have this big event happening. Do you want to be a host committee member, right? If you join the host committee, you only have to raise $2,000, $4,000, right? It's not as heavy a lift. And that way you get more people. But again, your time is really precious. If you have a lot of events that are raising $300 and you have to raise $100,000, that's a lot of events. That's a lot of time. When you have questionnaires, you have your consultant giving you documents you need to approve, you have advertisements you have to get out, you've got debates, all those things, right? So have a minimum amount, a threshold, and don't be embarrassed by it, and stick by it. And allow people to give other ways. So finance committee, I like to ask them, again, it depends on the race, but to raise $5,000 to $10,000 each. And I give them the tools to be able to do that. So as the fundraiser, I'm giving them remittance envelopes, online forms. I will create with our database a page, a link just for them so that I can easily track who's giving, right? And who's given, so I can let them know and they can do follow-up. I also write letters, I write emails for them. That's me as the fundraiser, not you as the candidate. So you have all of these tools so that they're empowered to go out there and do that. If you've got 10 good friends, they'll make it happen. If you're a lawyer and if you're a workman's comp lawyer and you have the California applicant's attorney on your side, right, they're going to go ahead and come on board. Right? If you're an optometrist, I've already told you that they'll come on board. If you're a union member or a union leader, they're going to come on board. So all of these possibilities, don't be afraid to ask. They can only say no or yes. You get them on there. The other initiatives that are really key to what you're going to be doing is your phone time. How much phone time? If you're able to get through a list as quickly as our friend over here, maybe you don't need that much. But for most of my clients, I schedule an hour and a half phone time with me or one of my staff members, and they talk about all kinds of things before they get on the phone. It's like everybody needs a warm-up. You have to do some stretching, and okay, let's get to it. Because I would like it if each call was no more than 6 minutes, and that would be 10 an hour. Right? And that rarely happens. It's more like 10 minutes and maybe 6 an hour. So how much time can you do it? When do you do your phone time? You do it when you're best. It's very weird for me, but it does happen that my voice will go monotone. I get off the phone. Right? I can't do that because if I call you and say, hello, this is Lori. I'm running for office. I'm really excited about it. Right? That is not going to do anything. But when I say, hello, it's Lori, and guess what? It's phone time, and I need you to please give me $1,000 so I can get to my $5,000 goal today. Can I count on you for that $1,000? I get a yes. So I get a yes, and I was going to do more. One time, oh gosh, my first multi-zeroed call was to Don Henley and of the Eagles, and I was running a campaign for a woman running for state senate who had no business doing this, but she's another story. She's really fun. Anyway, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just calling everybody. And so I called Don Henley, and I left a message for him, and then my boss comes in a little bit later, cupping the phone saying, Don Henley. I was like, oh my God, oh my gosh. I had just seen them at Irvine. I was down in Southern California at the time. And so I said, hello, Mr. Henley. Thanks for returning my phone call. Sure, tell me about your candidate. So I tell him about my candidate and why it's so important that he contribute to her. It's just critical. We have to get rid of this guy, Rob Hurt, who was the demon of all demons at the time. And he said, okay. And I had a figure in my head, but I didn't bother to ask. And he said, would 10,000 be okay? And I said, yes, because that's what was in my head. But you know what the problem was? He gave it so quickly that I should have asked for 20 or 25,000, right? Know what you're going to ask and let the other person say yes or no. Anyway, as a newbie to all of it, it was very exciting that Don Henley called me back, asked me about his concert, and I could tell him. It was great. So phone time is a lot of fun, in my opinion, but you can get lost. And I've been doing this. My business celebrated 26 years in April, and so people know me, and so there's a lot of chats. Right? Today was a lot of chat with a guy that I had one question for him, and it ended up being a 20-minute phone call. If I were my client, I would have fired me on the spot. But it happens. So you have to have that kind of relationship, and you do, and that way you can call them back. So phone time is there. Endorsements, they are critical, right? Endorsements are critical, the institutional and the individual. And when you get those endorsements and you say thank you for it, the next question is? I didn't hear you. How much money? Thank you very much. Okay, you guys are getting really good at this. All right, how much money? Will you be able to solicit your membership on my behalf? Right? May I solicit your membership on my behalf? Right? Everything becomes a bigger world. I talk about concentric circles and other times because everything becomes this concentric circle. It just builds out. You're building the buzz, you're raising the money, which reminds me, Does everybody know about Emily's list? And does everybody know who Emily is? Does anybody want to share?
Early money is like yeast.
That's exactly right. Does anybody bake bread? Okay, early money is like yeast. That's where Emily's list came from the bread maker. So once you start raising money, even though you're going to put your plan together and it's going to seem finite, and maybe if you have to raise 100,000, in this case, the goal for this sample plan was 100, I only identified 76,000. So I still needed to get to another 24. But because I'm starting early, even though we're late, because I've decided too late to run for office, right? It's a foregone conclusion, the money's it's gonna grow, right? So you wanna there's no problem with this. You go to the easy picking calls first. Do that and ask them, how much are you going to give? Well, you're going to have an amount. I want $1,000. I want the maximum $400. I want $4,900. I want $9,700 if you're a small contributor committee, right? You want to ask for that, and then you want to ask, who else can I call? May we solicit your members, right? I have a woman running for assembly that is the head of a labor council. Labor union members contribute to they have per capita contributions that they make, which is how labor unions are able to make their contributions. They're not used to writing their own checks under most circumstances, but they're starting to now. You can educate people, right? You need to educate people on how to give. That's how it all multiplies. So early money is like yeast. You're going to raise lots of money at the beginning. And how am I doing on time, Barbara? Good. I'm good? Yeah. Oh, let's keep going, team. All right. So I've given you early money is like yeast. Your budget and your cash flow. It's going to take time to put all your tools together. So you need to file. Again, I am not a treasurer, and so I rely on treasurers. As a finance director, they're critical to everything I do, and laws are changing, so you always need to have that. But you need to get your Fppc number and your bank account, all those pieces. You need to create a website. You need to have a way for people to contribute online. Even though there's fees, I forgot, I had a firefighter in the house. Do you write checks? Thank you. Okay. I depend on my firefighters. Thanks. Right. So you need to have your bank account. You need to have a way for people to contribute online. All these links. Have your database. What databases are people using? Are people using any databases for your races? It's not a database. It's a fundraising tool. So Nation Builder is a really good one. And there are people in the Democratic world that have issues with Nation Builder at this point because they also, they have Republicans in there as well. They're an equal opportunity database. So there's NGP, which is Democratic only. It's more expensive, and it's really become a pain in the rear end. And they have no customer support. So I don't mind saying that, because if my words get to NGP in DC or LA, I'd be really happy. Not many people I know are happy with them. If you're running for a smaller office, you may want to use Excel, but eventually it's not going to be robust enough. So I believe it's worth the investment to do a Nation Builder, which does work with ActBlue, and ActBlue is great for being a tool to collect money. But the thing about Nation Builder is that you can tag your donors, right? So these are my family members, these are my friends, these are the lawyers, these are the teachers, these are the firefighters, right? These are my neighbors. You can do all of that. These are my endorsers. And the more you get into with your database, the better fundraising you can do. It's called segmentation in the world that I live, and being able to send out communications that are segments, right? So you're running for office in San Rafael, and Your communication with voters in the canal is going to be different than your voters in the Dominican area, right? In San Anselmo, you've got Sleepy Hollow, and then you've got other areas. So you want to talk to these people about issues that are going to resonate for them. Right? And that's not changing anything. It just means that you're aware of who they are. If you have a database in which you can identify these different pieces, then you can do better segmented communication. And the better you are in that, the better the rate of return will be. You want to have a good open rate. You want to have email blasts going. And Nation Builder also allows you to send out it allows you to have event pages. So for your special events, you can create a specific page. You can have donor pages, all kinds of things, again, for that kind of segmentation. And you can send out the communications so that when somebody donates, it gets immediately populated into that database. And that's really helpful. You want to track, because while you're on the phone and you're sending out that follow-up communication, somebody said, yes, I'm going to send in a check for the maximum. You write down that commitment, right? And you're tracking that, but it doesn't come in. Well, it doesn't do any good because you can't spend a commitment. You need to get that check-in or the contribution. You need to send them the link. You need to send them a remittance form, an envelope, whatever it is, and you need to follow up next week and say, I didn't receive that check. Do you need me to come pick it up? Right? Maybe not for your $25 donations, with all due respect, because again, back to my democracy, I believe in all of that. Years ago, we had a campaign that I was so proud of. I think we had 4,000 individual donors. It was just really tremendous in terms of grassroots fundraising and what we were able to do. So it's big, it's huge, right? Bernie had the whole $27 donation. You can do a lot with that, but that also takes a lot of work. Right? It takes a lot of work to be able to reach that many people in order to raise the amount of money that you need to. The elements and the tools that you need. Mentioned your committee name. Your committee name these days must have the year that you're running. So Lori Earp for Supervisor 2022. Right? It's got to have the year. You have to have your treasurer. You need an address. A lot of donors will not, and this is the institutional, it's usually my labor donors, will not send a check to a P.O. box. They need a physical address. So make sure you have a physical address as well. You have to have your bank account, your Fppc number. Can you start raising money without your Fppc number? Yes. You can. So as long as you have filed for it, especially during the height of the pandemic when the Secretary of State wasn't in the office and it was really difficult, you just put Fppc number pending, right? As long as you have your application in there, it will make it easier for people who want to write a check, who need to have that Fppc number to have it, but you can start raising money. It's that you have to have your bank account opened within 10 days of having collected your first check. You need remittance envelopes or forms, and that was something that didn't get copied for me. But on this remittance envelope or form, and I like the forms that I'll create electronically and be able to share when I send a follow-up email, I send that out. You want to have on it a way for people to sign as an endorser. You want to have opportunities for them to respond to getting involved. Are they going to put up a sign, a lawn sign, a window sign? Will they do fundraising? Will they walk precincts? Those are really important pieces. You want to have a way for them to contribute with a credit card. Have that information. Some people still write that in. And you want to have their employer occupation on there, right? You need their address, their phone number, their email, and the Fppc requires for every donation of $100 or more that you get their employer occupation. If some of this is basic 101 for those of you who already hold office, I apologize, but for everybody else, you may not collect any cash, cashier's check, or money order for an amount greater than $99. $99 or less does not get reported either. So for people who don't want the opposition to know that they're contributing to you, and they're like, I really can't let Susie know that I'm supporting you, no problem. Can you give me $99? Will your spouse give me $99? Did you know that in Ohio, oh my gosh. Okay, so I got asked to help out on a gubernatorial race in Ohio. And I went on to their Secretary of State to find out what the contribution limit is, which is this really weird number of $13,471 and so much change. And it says, it couldn't be a typo. You must be 7 years or older to contribute. Go to the state of Ohio and look at that. It's there, 7 years old. How old do you have to be to vote? But if you have a checking account or a credit card at 7, you can contribute. Okay, remittance envelopes, really important. I'm still blown away by that. So remittance envelopes or remittance forms, really, really important. And make sure that they have all this data. And do not print them in 4-color process. Don't print them in 2-color. You only need them in 1 color. This is a simple tool, right? This isn't your letterhead, right, which shouldn't be more than 2 colors. Save your money, do smart things, get them all union printed. Firefighters have a print shop up in Sacramento, as a matter of fact. So if you are endorsed by them, you can always ask them if they might do some printing in kind for you as well. The database, making sure you've got that, and make sure that it's accurate. It's really, really important that whomever you trust to do the data entry is doing it accurately, spelling names correctly, getting addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, the employer occupation right away. It's really difficult. If you have an event or somebody gives you a bunch of checks and you didn't have the employer and occupation information, you have to do a lot of retracing. So if they give you an envelope and it's sealed, say, I just want to check and make sure that all the information is current and correct. And you see no employer occupation, ask for it. Other new information that if you didn't know, if you get a contribution from a company that is formed as an LLC, a limited liability corporation, you need to have the name of the responsible party for that contribution, and there's a sentence in there as well saying that they verify that this contribution can be done for that purpose. So that's new. I'm having to update all my remittance forms right now. So those are the kinds of things that are needed on there. Your online giving, how quickly, how often? In general, it takes 7 to 9 touches if you didn't know somebody. So to Dottie's point, also 7 to 9 touches before somebody will contribute. That's in the nonprofit world, it's in the political world, unless they're your aunt, right? That's what happens. So online and texting to give is great because you can touch them softly. I love having these open rates of like 40%, and converting them to donors. Because if they're at least reading my message, then when my staff and I are making follow-up phone calls, did you get our email? Yes, I did. Terrific. So you know why we're raising money, why we're calling. We'd like to count on you for a contribution. We can count on you for a contribution. Yes? Yes. Okay, cool. So those kinds of things are really important. Your website, your kitchen cabinet is really important, again, as Dottie mentioned. Those are your best friends. Those are the people that are out there that are telling you your nylon has a run in it, that your lipstick, your mascara is running, right? People that tell you have something in your teeth. You need those people that also tell you how you're presenting yourself, right? What you need to be doing. Are you speaking too long? Right? How do you close it? How do you get more succinct? You need those advisors. They're not necessarily your finance committee. Finance committee, one of my first races in Santa Clara County was for a man running for judge. Most people don't care about judicial races. Now, I'm good. I'm done. All right. Thank you. I'll just wrap. If you have a strong finance committee, I had one man who was a a beverage distributor, a well-known Democrat throughout Santa Clara County. He was my one-man finance committee, and he almost single-handedly raised all the money we needed to win that race. So if you've got a good finance committee member, they can be out there, you know, fundraising. There used to be these smoke rooms where people would come in, they'd talk, you need to give, $1,000, you're going to give $10,000, right? Because they know how much you made that year. Those kinds of things. There are people that still do that. They're quid pro quos. I'll give to your candidate, you give to mine. Get those people on your finance committee. Your phone, whatever it looks like, is your best friend. You need it to operate. You need to carry a charger with you. You can't afford for it not to work. Somebody's going to call you to say they're giving you an endorsement, they're giving you a contribution. You don't want to miss that. You want to text, so have that. You need your email address, and I'm almost done. The tools for fundraising, direct mail. I still love getting mail. In that mailbox, the United States Postal Service, it costs money, but it's rare to do it. When you're sending out your thank you letters, when the time is right, thank you so much for your contribution of $50. I've included another remittance envelope here so that you can match that with another contribution today. Right? We are so close. I'm the front runner. We're going to make it to the victory line, right? I'm going to do it with you. Help me. Your online appeals, your text to give, your events versus house parties, your phone. If you are not having the first 3 letters of what I do every day, then you are in the wrong business. You must have fun in fundraising. You have to smile before you get on the phone. You have to remember why you're running and do it with gusto, because it is really a good thing. And you're participating in a system that is so precious. And again, I appreciate all of you. Does anybody have any questions as I shut up? That's it. Thank you. Do you have questions? Can I entertain any?
Oh, sure. I don't have questions now, but we put it at the end of the program.
That's right. Okay.
Dottie, you stay right, and you will be here to answer questions right after the final presentation. According to the program, you're going to be, okay.
We're here.
This gives you people time to think about the question.
If you didn't have one.
If you didn't have one.
Okay. Sounds perfect.
If you do have one, does anybody have one? Right now? Okay.
I answered every fundraising question.
You did a great job. Every increment of yes. Okay. I think our speakers are wonderful. And now we're going to talk about getting that important endorsement. As both speakers have said, that's a really important part. And when you start out your campaign, you need to have people who back you and people who can look at the backers and say, I really want to, oh, well, that person is doing it, so I'm going to do it too. So getting that important endorsement, we have 2 speakers. First is Ken Martin from IAFF 1775, our Marin County firefighters, followed by Gina Brewer. Thank you, Ken. Here's the mic. Take it away.
Thank you much. So we're being recorded, so I'll use it. Usually my voice can carry enough to where I don't. But so the endorsement process. Short and simple part of it, it's a job interview. And you have to address it as a job interview. Come in dressed for success, all right? Flip-flops, shorts, and tank tops, don't do it, all right? That tells me that you're not going to be there. Be on time. And this is just not just for us. This is some things that you need to know for everybody on any of the endorsements that you're seeking. If you're provided a questionnaire in advance, answer it. Be honest in your answers, because in your interview process, if you're not honest in your answers, it's going to come out, and we're going to find out. Okay, so know the issues that you're being interviewed for, because that's what the endorsement interview. It's an interview, right? So know what the issues are. We have a letter that goes out in advance. It tells you what we want you to bring with you to your interview. They're very simple things. We want a fundraising update because you've heard how important fundraising is. If you haven't started your fundraising, so we don't interview until the week after the close of file. And we don't do that, and the reason we do it that way is because we've had people who have jumped into the race on the last day. And if you've already endorsed, then you've lost that chance to interview everybody. So that's number one important thing. Number two is that I'm old and I'm senile and I forget what the hell number two is sometimes. But it'll come back to me, I promise. Number two is it's important that you interview all candidates for the office that's being ran. Okay, when you don't interview anybody, and understand this when you go through your process, you should make sure you have the option to ask questions also. You should make sure that your interview panel is interviewing everybody. Because if I only go out and interview the individuals that I think are going to be best for the job, then the first thing they're going to put out on that social media post is that I didn't get a chance to talk to the firefighters. They had already made up their mind, and they're going to minimize my endorsement. So I'm going to endorse everyone. I'm not going to endorse everyone, I'm sorry. I'm going to interview everyone, or at least I'm going to give them the opportunity. There will be an invitation sent to every candidate. We ask for a one-page viability fact sheet. Why are you going to win? What makes you that candidate that's going to win? We want a biography on you, and we want a list of your endorsements. We also ask for your Fppc number because of that issue. Yes, we write checks. And number one, when you come in, if the close of file has already happened and you haven't established your Fppc number, you're out of the race. It's over. It's done, right? You're going to go out, you're going to leave the firefighter interview and go, oh my God, this is the first week of campaign season. So the way this thing works is that close of file is going to happen in August. September 1st used to be the traditional day to kick off the campaign. You have 30 days from then, and the absentee ballot drops. And 7 days after the absentee ballot drops, with the exception of senior citizens facilities, you have lost, the race is over. Okay? And the reason is to see the issue with the senior citizen facility is because they are in a park or a condominium project or something like that, they have a polling place there, and it's a social event for them, and they're going to go in and they're going to vote at that place. Okay? So that's when you think about, you've heard the 7 touches and the drops of the mails and things like that. Really not much good dropping mail to anywhere other than a senior citizen facility 2 weeks before the end of the election. I'm getting smiles back because of it, right? I mean, you're wasting your money and you're wasting your time. So if you come in to an interview 2 weeks before, a week after the close of file, 2 weeks after the close of file, you don't have your numbers, you don't have fundraising because you don't have your numbers, you don't have a list of the people that are supporting you other than your spouse or your children, I know you're not going to win the race. That doesn't mean I won't endorse you, okay? Because I might need to send a message to other people, right? So it doesn't mean we won't endorse you, but we also already know we're not going to put a lot of money behind you because you're going to lose. And it's just that simple. And I don't mean to make it sound cold or mean, but it's just the way it works. So we also ask, we want your cell phone number, we want your personal email address, we want your mailing address, goes back to the issues on the checks and things like that, who your staff contacts are, their numbers, and their email address. And I printed up one of our old sheets, so we have updated the new one. I want your Fppc number when you have that interview. And then we get into questions. This was a very simple one we did in 2019. We try to make it very comfortable. It's almost like I say, it's, for us, because we're firefighters, it's what we're used to seeing when we went through a job interview in the fire department. We want you to be comfortable. We want you to sit down and start. We're going to open up. We want to know, tell us about your background and why you're running for the position. What's the motivator? What's making you do it? We're going to go back and ask you about how your candidacy is viable. Going back, we're going to compare that against your viability sheet. We're a union shop. I want to know if you've been a union member. Do you have any members who have family members who have been union? You know? And I can promise, I kid you not, people come in and ask, why the hell would I be a member of a union? Well, you obviously didn't do your homework, okay? What can you tell us about the fire department in your town? I've had people come in for interviews and not be able to tell me how many fire stations they have in their town. Right, you're asking me to invest in you. When you come in and you ask for an interview with us, you're asking for us to invest in you, alrighty? We've been told by the IFF, our endorsement has a value of about $50,000, okay? So maybe not in so much as a small local race, but we're one of the most expensive endorsements you can have. Why would I give you the most expensive endorsement you're going to get if you can't tell me what's important to me? If you can't tell me how many people are on a fire engine in your town? If you can't tell me how many fire stations you have? So you have to do your homework on this stuff. And that goes for not just us, whoever you go talk to. These are things you have to understand, that you have to know about wherever you go talking. We're going to ask you about privatization. We're going to ask you about, right now in the fire service, right now at the state level, we're fighting hard to prevent the privatization of the ambulance companies. What do you know about that? Okay, we're seeing it in state after state. We're seeing there's this philosophy. The citizens of your district, and this is one of the things, to understand, the citizens of your district in every town in Marin pays a tax to have a paramedic show up at their door. Everybody does that. But you've got departments in Marin County that are talking about going to what's referred to as a single role paramedic. And that single role paramedic provides an ambulance and an EMT, with a paramedic and an EMT, and it's a non-safety person. So if that victim happens to be someone who's in a fire, they can't go in and help us. They can't, they're very limited what they can do. And yet we're seeing this push to have this happen, right? So if you don't know about that when we bring it up, then we're going to wonder, why are we investing in you, okay? The other piece of it is when you come in and you tell me, yeah, we're thinking that's really a good deal. We're going to save money. This is how we're looking at it. I have a lot of money to make sure you don't get in office. And that's the other part of the interview process, okay? And I'm just being frank and honest, okay? I have a lot of money to make sure you don't get in office. Everybody you interview with has that. They may not be honest and tell you that. Babe, can you silence my phone? My phone rings in my hearing aids. Sorry about that. So, yeah. So, understand that as I'm explaining this, I'm not putting this out as a threat. I want you to understand what you're going through when you go through an endorsement process. This is what everybody does who you talk to, okay? Where you put your priorities, and then we're going to ask if we're going to be entitled to a position on your committee. And depending on the committee, we may ask, when you offer it, we may have to take you up on it. We're going to ask for that. That's the short and simple part of the endorsement process. As far as the firefighters, I will tell you I carry 11 endorsements in my pocket. I don't just have the Marin professional firefighters. I have every fire department in the county of Marin that I carry the endorsement for. It was mentioned CPF's print shop. We have access to the CPF print shop. They don't just do printing. They do, if I need them to, they take care of all the mailing. They take care of signs, which you've heard Dottie bring up and and others. Signs don't win elections. Signs don't vote. But if you want to spend your name, signs are very important for the candidate, because the candidate gets to drive through town and see their name. And it's like, whoa, yeah, another one of my friends. But they don't vote, okay? Nobody has won an election who only put out signs. But there's a lot of people who have won elections who never put out a sign, okay? So understand that about signs. But we can print those for you. We can provide walk lists. You know, and this stuff becomes important. Corte Madera still running a $500 limit in their campaigns.
They just adopted 500 and maximum expenditure of 5,000.
Yeah, and so the fire department walks in with a 20% discount on printing, and suddenly that's huge. That's an endorsement. That is a contribution that you don't have to report, right? And it helped you with that. So when you're going through your interview process, if it's not provided to you, ask the interviewers, what can you do for me? It's okay to do that, all right? It's okay to ask that question. We're asking of you, you should be asking of us, all right? What comes with your endorsement? You know, well, you get my name. That, you know, and in my sheet that goes out, I explain to everybody on the sheet that goes out, just to go through it. If we endorse a candidate, we can choose to endorse. We may endorse multiple candidates in a race. We may stay neutral until a later date, or we may, deferring the endorsement to the general election. Our endorsement levels in the local government races are usually 3 tiers. It's an endorsement plus 500, or it's an endorsement plus 1,000. But depending on the jurisdiction that it is, that membership can show up and ask for more. So we go back to, again, if you haven't been in the fire station and talked to the people in the fire station so that they're able to come out and support for you to get more money than just the name, if you wooed us and you got $1,000, but if you needed 2,500 or more, it's going to take that fire department having talked to you, you having talked to them, and them coming in and advocating for more money. And I know I was only supposed to take, I think we're combined supposed to take 15 minutes or so. So at that point, I'll shut up and turn over to who's next. Oh, sure. Any questions?
So when you interview candidates, are there some times where you make a list of like, hell no?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Here's a dead in the water. Okay. Oh yeah. So first of all, when you come in, there is one person sitting there with a computer, and we're doing our list. Okay. Your name's on the coin list or the CSPP. Yeah, that's a hell no. And pardon?
The CSP.
See, the Citizens for Sustainable Pensions, which has morphed into COIN, Citizens for Citizens Interested in Open Negotiations, or something like that, something along those lines. Very, very strong anti-union, anti-labor groups. Basically, the Howard Jarvises have restructured themselves, and they don't support us. And so, yeah, that's a hell no. And that happens. It happens. But we'll go ahead and talk to them. We'll find out their game plan, and then we'll go ahead and use it against them. Yeah.
Okay. So much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay. That was really interesting. And I have to tell you that the Firefighters Union did print for me, and that was a huge benefit. Thank you so much, Ken. Okay, and next, Gina would like to tell us also about getting that important endorsement. Gina is a past president of Marin Women's PAC. So Gina, do you want to come up here? I want to mention 2 things before you start. 2 important dates for you to put on your calendar. The next one for our Marin Women's PAC is September 1st. That is a new members networking event at the Falkirk House up in San Rafael. It's lots of fun. It is networking. If you're doing a campaign, it's a perfect place to get together. We'll have actually prizes and giveaways, but it's all about social. The next one is September 14th. That's our next endorsement night. So you have to be a member of MWPAC 30 days in advance of the 14th in order to vote for a candidate, to endorse a candidate. So put those down on your calendar because we'd love to see you there. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, what? New member event is September 1st at Falkirk. And it will probably be at 5:30 or later because people work. And it will be outside for people who are worried about COVID. We're going to have it on the patio, on the decks outside. And we'll have a speaker and we'll have, really fun. Okay, thank you. Now, Tina, go ahead.
Hi. So when we have our candidates night, we usually have a reception beforehand, which is good so that candidates can kind of mingle with people before the official event. The purpose and goals of MWPAC are to organize, educate, and unite women to eradicate sexism, racism, ageism, institutional violence, and poverty. To achieve these goals, we work to involve women in the political process at all levels, including electing candidates and lobbying for political appointments. We vote to endorse female candidates and recommend male candidates. We recommend males where there is a race where there's no viable woman candidate running, or if there are more open seats than women candidates. And let's see, the specific issues targeted by MWPAC include, but are not limited to, reproductive choice, affirmative action, comparable worth, pay equity, protection against domestic violence and sexual assault, and support for the principles of the Equal Rights Amendment. The committee reviews questionnaires that are sent out to all candidates, but we only formally invite people who support women's rights. And there's some candidates who maybe have problems with the reproductive choice element. And there's actually some candidates, a few, who are not seeking endorsements. Don't ask me why, but that's what they say. So we are very particular on who we invite to our sessions. And they will be notified. And we do send out a questionnaire. This is one example. This is only 3 pages, but we have revised it since this one. But we do ask questions like, do you favor women's right to equal pay for equal work? Do you support the concept of comparable worth? How will you implement if you're elected to this office? What can be done to reduce rape and domestic violence? Things like that. Some people say, well, that has nothing to do with my job. But that's not the point. When we actually ask questions at the session, we do ask questions about local issues because we know who you are because you've filled out the questionnaire. So we know that you do support women, but we also want people to obviously know about the local issues too. So it's not just that. And we do ask for the same things that he was saying, home telephone. It's amazing some questionnaires come in with very little information on how to contact the candidates. Yeah, you need to have all that information so that people can get to you. And the questionnaires are available to anybody who's at the session. This idea of viable candidates, we are not rubber stamping women. Every once in a while you hear that comment, oh, you're just rubber stamping women. No, the women that we support are viable, which means, yes, they do have a way of raising funds. And yes, they do have a track record. They may not have held a public office before, but they've obviously done something in the community that makes them experienced and capable, showing that they have leadership and are capable of conducting business in the community. Somebody actually questioned me about that because they knew somebody who was a good person, but probably would have a hard time raising funds and really didn't have much of a track record. I'm sorry, you have to have a viable campaign. And that's just the basics. And I think by the time that you've heard Lori speak and Dottie speak, you know that that's very important. So I have to. Okay, so I think that's the basic points that I want to get across. But men do participate in our campaigns, even the ones in a campaign, in a endorsement night, where they know they cannot get recommended because there is a viable woman candidate running. And even if that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to get all the votes, but the men do participate because it gets them out. We try to have an endorsement night pretty early on in the process, so at least it gives them a chance to speak and maybe, you know, smooth out their presentation. And also, they really do have a chance of stopping the woman from getting the endorsement. Sometimes, I mean, we vote for the best candidate, and sometimes, unfortunately, well, whatever, it's not always the woman. There are times when the man, I can even think of some big name men who were involved, and one was John Burton versus Angela Aliotta. Guess who was the big supported person there? And he managed to keep her from getting endorsed. But anyway, the point is that there are reasons why the men do come to speak to our group, even if they know they cannot get endorsed by our group. And, one more point. Okay. And the other thing is, all candidates who are invited to our sessions need to know what Catherine said. If they have friends who they want to vote for them to get our endorsement, have them join our group 30 days in advance, and they will be able to vote. And the important thing is that only members vote. We're not a committee. It's our members, and we usually have between 30 and 40 members at our endorsement nights. So it really is a grassroots group that vote for the candidates, and I think that's really important. And we do give money to the female candidates. We do not to the men, but we do give them do make their recommendation, which they can use in their campaign literature. So we are a little picky, but we eliminate the ones we don't like early on. So and so, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gina. But you see how important you all are? I mean, if you're not a member now, you can be, and if you come, you can vote. And that's what we want to do. We want to get more women involved in politics now more than ever. And men too, obviously. We have some gentlemen here who we really thank because they're members they're members and supporters. So now we come to the part in the program where a person of my age needs advice. What to do on the social media? How do you attract the most attention? So the title is How to Make Social Media Your Friend. Julia Reinhardt is going to do a presentation, and while she's setting up, she's going to do a PowerPoint. I want to tell you that she's a graduate of Dominican College, and that she was a campaign manager for you, Mary, right? So, yeah.
So this presentation is how to make social media your friend. Quick audience participation. Just requires raising your hand. Who feels very comfortable on social media? Okay, that's very exciting to see a good amount of hands. And can everyone be vulnerable and say they feel intimidated or unsure about their social media capacity? Okay, very good. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel a little bit better. That's the goal. So first, what we're going to talk about is telling your story. So all of you have a different reason why you're running for office. And that, just like Dottie was saying, should really be the focal point of all your messaging. That includes your social media. Now, if I had the screen, you'd see a wonderful photo of Mary on her bicycle. And that is because Mary enjoys bike riding a lot. She has done it, I don't know how many years, probably since she was Sarah's age or younger. And so that was a really organic way to showcase Mary biking into a neighborhood to go canvass. And it's sort of a subtle, indirect nod to her environmental values. So that was just an example of a visual that you can take that's maybe not you speaking with the microphone in front of a bunch of people, something that's a little more personal, connecting with people on your social media. A few other questions you want to think about is how can you present your platform creatively? So social media has more versatility than your website. You have the ability to chunk messages into smaller amounts, and that's just something to think about. Okay, your social media team. You might feel like as the candidate, you can do social media by yourself. I strongly recommend you do not take this approach. And that is because you as the candidate have so many things on your plate that you cannot pass along to someone else. So take the help where you can get it. We had between 1 to 3 people always helping with social media with the candidate, myself included. And we had one awesome super volunteer, is what I'll call her, who was in, say, her 30s or 40s, hate guessing people's ages, but just wanted to mention that because it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's like a former college student or someone who's maybe really comfortable with new technology. Millennials are great, so use them. And these 1 to 3 people should not just be anyone. It has to be someone that you can really trust to present you well. They should have good judgment. That is not something that necessarily can be taught, unfortunately. So take your time vetting who your social media people will be. What are the responsibilities between your social media team, at least one person, and the candidate? Taking photos is an art. It is something that cannot necessarily be taught. I will take photos at an event and think I've captured it. The angles are horrible. Take extra photos always, and it just takes practice. So a perfect example would be if your candidate is having a house party and you have maybe your party coordinators there, someone else in the background, make sure they take a photo where the candidate is like front and center, maybe like rule of thirds type knowledge. They're at least in the front of the room of a crowd of people. And in a situation like a house party, not everyone present may be supporting yourself as the candidate already. And you want to keep that in mind because not everyone wants their photo on social media. So at a public event, people are pretty aware that photos are going to be taken. So tonight, we're all recorded, maybe even eating a little bit, but that's what we signed up for, right? At a house party, make sure that you are asking permission if you're posting a photo side by side and you don't know the individual. Or a safe bet is get the candidate front and center and have most people with their back to the camera. And that's usually fairly achievable. Doing my thumbprint. Okay, last few things about delving responsibilities or separating responsibilities. As the candidate, you should establish some sort of social media workflow. It does not need to be complicated. It can be one spreadsheet that everyone has access to, which I highly recommend. And this is a place where, as the candidate, you might know someone that would love to give a video testimonial for you. A lot of people are hard to find that will be comfortable being videoed for something like that. But as the candidate, you can pass that name along to your social media team and they can set that up. The candidate should have final sign-off on all content, in my opinion. This will avoid any sort of messages or photos getting posted that shouldn't be. It's just a way to really own your message and make sure that what's being put out there to the community is what you want it to be. And the last thing that's a shared responsibility is having some sort of central location for photos. So it could be a shared album through the Photos software if you have an iPhone. It could be a Dropbox, just something that everyone has access to. Okay, do's. We're going to start with do's, don'ts, and then things to be aware of. So do tag others. Say you got the endorsement of the firefighters. Tag them in that post so that they likely will share that with their audience. It's really hard to grow, I call it a baby social media account. So tagging people is going to help your reach go farther. Hashtags is a funny thing. I personally don't follow any hashtags, but you could come up with something simple. We use Sackett for supervisor in a lot of our posts, or something like hashtag Marin. A lot of people who don't necessarily follow local politics will follow the hashtag Marin. And so that might be a way to get people to your page who wouldn't otherwise see your work. Set a goal of a number of posts you ideally would want to have during the week. Goal setting just helps us actually follow through on things. It does not need to be something that is reached every week necessarily. Now, some of the don'ts. Don't choose too many platforms. We did Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and it worked out well for our campaign, with Facebook definitely being the bulk audience. And I would say if you're, running maybe for school board or city council or any sort of local race, even just a Facebook account could be all that you need. Marin has a larger population of older adults who, if they have social media, will be on Facebook as opposed to something like Twitter. So that's just a recommendation. Proofread, the golden rule that every teacher tried to instill in you. Proofread. Captions can usually be edited. If you have Twitter, tweets cannot be edited easily. So just be mindful of proofreading. Mistakes happen. Now, there's not enough time tonight for me to talk about accessibility in social media, but it is a personal passion of mine. And just having that in the back of your mind, that if you have a video where someone's talking, it would be really helpful to have closed captioning for probably various members of the community. If you do have Instagram for your campaign, there is a setting that will do automated closed captioning. However, they don't make it editable, which is horrible, but it's just what Meta does to try and make Facebook and Instagram still complicated. There is an app called Mix Captions, M-I-X Captions, one word. There's a free version, and then there's a pro version that's maybe $9 a month that I recommend. You can upload a video on your phone of someone speaking, select the language that that person is speaking in, and it'll do an automatic transcription. And then you can edit it, any errors that are picked up. The automated person did not like to spell Sackett correctly, something that probably would be really important to double check. Also, just like Lori was talking about, time management for social media is really important. Again, you have so many things going on as a candidate. You should not be spending a lot of time on social media, so make sure that your team can help you. And keep in mind consent to be photographed. So I talked about the house party example. The other one to be careful of is minors. So minor safety is really important. Getting parental consent for you all who may have personal social media accounts. Those are hopefully private, but your professional account or campaign account need to be public for anyone to be able to access it. So just keep that in mind. So how do you create graphics? Say not standalone photos, say you got the Marin Women's PAC endorsement, and you really want to highlight that. Canva is a great free software program. They also have a pro version that's very affordable. And I consider Canva to be the graphic design software for people who have no experience or even interest in graphic design, because it's very user-friendly, there are lots of templates, and you really can't go wrong. So highly recommend Canva. If you have a campaign logo, it should go on all of your graphics. You worked really hard developing it, likely with your team. It has your colors, it might be on your yard signs, use your campaign logo. If you could see, you probably can't from there, but I'm gonna try to have one visual. So you can see this is a really standard sort of theme of what we would do. It's a blue and white gradient background with nice, just easy to read black lettering. And it uses yellow and blue, picture of Mary, and it's showcasing the Marin IJ endorsement. Again, I'll make sure these slides are emailed so you could look at more examples. But you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So once you have sort of templates you like, also you don't have to create a graphic all the time. Just a nice photo of your candidate knocking on a door is always great. What should you put on social media is a great question. Showcase those endorsements from organizations and individuals, especially community members who you think carry a lot of weight. Having them on social media is a really unique way to get their voice out. Publicize your events and also volunteer opportunities. Not everyone loves to read their email or read to the bottom of the email and actually sign up for something. So that's why you can use social media as a tool to try and get more people. Sharing moments that might seem a bit more personal. So maybe your candidate picked up a pandemic hobby, they want to share that. If you're having dinner at a local restaurant, maybe you want to highlight that. Just sort of personal touches that gets social media followers to really know you outside of a mailer, which is pretty prescriptive, or the website, which is pretty standard. Consider paid ads. It's something that is fairly affordable in terms of advertising. If you want to explore paid ads, have your campaign consultant right from the get-go get you verified as a political account. This is a process through Meta if you're using Facebook or Instagram. It takes a lot of steps. They make you jump through a lot of hoops, but once you get it, you can post as many ads as you want, and it can be a great way to expand your reach. And link to your campaign website also, because that's really important, and you can drive people there to donate, to find out more about an event. Something that's really great is if you have your fundraising deadline coming up, having your candidate do a little short video or just a standard message saying, hey, my deadline is this weekend. It'd really help if you could chip in whatever contribution you're able to. And again, for folks who are inundated with emails, social media might be your only outlet to them. So I have a bunch of examples here, which I'm going to skip. But I will say that if you have events, it's really great to make sure on a graphic, which you could create in Canva, that it's just really easy. It has the date, the time, the location. Recognizing who is hosting the event is also usually a way to draw out people depending on the co-hosts. Also just to thank them and recognize them for taking the time to help your campaign. And also don't take for granted is how I'd phrase it, just sort of the ordinary photo. It may not look like a lot, but it could really connect with people. Find others who are running for office that you like their social media, or someone who's already elected. Senator McGuire, for example, loves to post his pug. And now that he has his child, he posts like that a lot. And that's a choice as a candidate if you want to share your personal life that much. But it can really help to sort of break down walls and make people see you as a real person and not just a candidate who they don't know much about personally. All right, last couple things. Don't discount the power of a selfie. So same sort of token of if you don't have someone there as the candidate to take pictures for you, taking a selfie is great. It also feels really personal. So if you're posting that, the voter will see it. Diversify your content. This means a few things. So if it's always photos that look kind of similar, it's not the most interesting. Kind of anything in life, you want some variety. So mixing it up with some videos, if you can, different kinds of photos, and also making sure that whatever coalition you're trying to build for your campaign, that is representative on your social media. Voters, from my experience, want to be able to see themselves, not only on your mailers, but if you have social media there. People identify in so many different ways. Make sure that you're representing who you see yourself, your campaign, your values. Make sure that you have a lot of representation. And then just to close, hopefully I think I'm okay with time with technology making me start a little late. Social media only has so much reach, and analytics are imperfect. So if you do decide to have a social media account for your campaign, you'll be able to look at like monthly insights, which can be really helpful. Usually they're a little disappointing of, oh, I thought my message reached, every voter in District 1. Not every voter is on social media, first of all, and it's hard for people. We're already a little bit, I think, fatigued of social media and technology with COVID, so it's okay. And campaigns are stressful enough. Social media should not be stressful. At times it could be, but this is why I really emphasize having a team, even if it's just your best friend who really knows you and is gonna take the time to ask questions before they post something. make sure that you have trusted people in your corner to really share your message. And then hopefully this is inspiring. So our top post for Mary's campaign reached 1,277 people. And that's pretty big, considering that if anyone runs a professional Facebook account, Business Suite updates daily and features that once were there are not. So it can be really hard to get good analytics. And we had under 2,500 people like the Facebook page, visit it. So that's really big. Even though 264 was our total likes, you could see that more people visited it, which is really powerful. And that's likely a voter who heard your name, saw your sign, and is just gonna look at your page. And a lot of people won't go ahead and like hit follow unless they feel really connected. And that's why touching voters as many times as possible is super important. That is it. I'm sorry, no visuals. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, so in order to collect metrics, do you use Google Analytics? What is it that counts the number of people who just hit your site, hit and stay on your site? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, great question. So whichever social media platform you're using, there will be built-in analytics through that software. So for Facebook, it's called Meta Analytics, since Meta owns Facebook. And it just has a dashboard that's right there, easy to use. And it just kind of takes some tinkering, and you can narrow it down to a month view, an even shorter view, or you could do it for the whole lifespan of your campaign social media account. Yes.
I have a silly question and then a nuts and bolts. As far as the campaign photo, is the rule of thumb of like the traditional looking straight ahead still what's the best option versus the like dreamy looking off to the side? Is there, trends change? So what is your advice?
Yes, so great question. I think a traditional head-on portrait is best, especially for your profile picture, and it just looks the most professional. That does not mean if you're, maybe that's not your style as a candidate, you should go with your style. And I am not a photographer, so your campaign photographer would definitely have a better answer. But just don't be afraid to experiment, but that profile photo should really be straight on. It's gonna help you get recognized in the community the most. And you had nuts and bolts.
And nuts and bolts is frequency of posting. What's a general rule of thumb? You're spreading yourself over multiple platforms. You're hoping to manage your time. Is that a daily post, weekly post? What's your kind of target goal?
I'd say a great target goal is 3 times per week minimum. This might seem really overwhelming, it can be. And that's because unfortunately with social media, there is something called algorithms that they really want people to post every day. So the more you post, the more visible your content will be to your audience. So if you're able to post something every day, that's great. For those who might not know, there are posts that will live like forever on your page. And there are also something called stories that disappear within 24 hours. So a story is a great way, maybe like your Tuesday, Thursday, it's a story. Monday, Wednesday, maybe your weekend event. Those are your 3 posts. And Wednesday is for some reason, it's the holy grail active day for social media. So Wednesday mornings, 8 or noon are great. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Have you heard or have any ideas on using Nextdoor successfully? I know they have rules, but can you use Nextdoor, and if so, how?
I don't have experience with using Nextdoor for a campaign. I would say that I'm not sure with the verification if you would have to get a specific political account, likely. And I would caution using Nextdoor just because it can be a hub for everyone's going to voice their opinion in a really untargeted way. And when you have campaign pages on, say, Facebook or Instagram, you're going to have comments on your post and people might send you a direct message. But the nature of those platforms is to make it easy to communicate. And while Nextdoor has its definite benefits, it's not the easiest for simple communication. I would see it more as a way you could put out notice if I have a house party coming up to your neighborhood, that's awesome. But it might just be a little bit complicated and not worth maybe putting in as much time as it would need. But I would definitely explore it. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
don't know how to turn it off quite yet. Thank you. Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Julia, so much. I want to thank every one of our presenters tonight. Dottie Lemieux and Lori Earp, right? Like Wyatt Earp? Okay. Like Wyatt Earp, okay. And Ken Martin, thank you so much, Ken. And Gina, so for our, how we handle our endorsement night. And Julia, that was really interesting to me especially. Thank you so much.